I haven't brought my glasses with me.
Can I get them, please?
Well, you'd have to go all the way back to
No.
Never mind. I know off by heart. Yes. Okay. So we begin as normal with a relaxation and then some breath work to sharpen the mind. And then with this sharp mind, develop a strong motivation for the session. And for those of you who are happy to do so after the motivation, then we'll do the prayers that you have in front of you, called prayers at the beginning of the teachings. If prayers are not your thing, you don't want to do them, that's not a problem. Just stay with the motivation. Okay? So it should say prayers at the beginning of the teachings. So just spend these few minutes while people are rifling through papers, just to relax your body. Just get your body into a really comfortable position. And if you can, keep your back straight. And begin the meditation by half closing the eyes. This mudra of compassion, this half-closed eyes, helps us begin to draw the mind inward. Now to anchor the mind inward, become interested in your breath. At no time forcing any rhythm, simply note the body breathing. Begin to notice now any tension that you have in your body, from the crown of your head to the tips of your toes. Just note any area of tension, then move on. And now you begin to notice that on the out-breath, that this tension flows away from your body and mind, just flows away on the out breath. You force nothing, you simply notice. And as the tension flows away on the out breath, notice how much more relaxed your facial muscles are, how soft the area around the eyes, how wide the space between the eyebrows. And your shoulders have now dropped to a much more relaxed position. Notice how much more responsive your abdomen is to each in-breath and out-breath, each in-breath and out-breath. Begin to notice now, without altering your breathing in any way, that with each in-breath, your mind is becoming brighter. Keeping the body relaxed. On each in-breath, your mind becoming clear. And we place this clear, sharp, bright mind at the entrance to both nostrils. And our only task is to be fully aware of the sensation of the breath there. Fully aware of each in-breath and the sensations that accompany it. Fully aware of the sensations of the breath on the out-breath. And we keep our mind there. Every time the mind wanders, we just gently bring it back. With this relaxed body and sharp mind, you generate a strong positive motivation for today. Make it clear in your mind. Then shift your focus to that and just gently observe it. And for those who are happy to do so, you can do the prayers. To the Founder, the endowed transcendent destroyer, the one gone beyond, the foe destroyer, the completely perfected, fully awakened being, perfect in knowledge and in good conduct, Sugata, knower of the world, supreme guide of human beings to be tamed, teacher of gods and human beings, to you the completely and fully awakened one, the endowed transcendent destroyer, the glorious conqueror, the subduer from the Shakya clan, I prostrate, make offerings, and hope for refuge. To the Founder, the endowed transcendent destroyer, the one gone beyond, the foe destroyer, the completely perfected, fully awakened being, perfect in knowledge and in good conduct, Sugata, knower of the world, supreme guide of human beings to be tamed, teacher of gods and human beings, to you, the completely and fully awakened one, the endowed transcendent destroyer, the glorious conqueror, the subduer from the Shakya clan, I prostrate, make offerings, and hope for refuge. To the Founder, the endowed transcendent destroyer, the one gone beyond, the foe destroyer, the completely perfected, fully awakened being, perfect in knowledge and in good conduct, Sugata, knower of the world, supreme guide of human beings to be tamed, teacher of gods and human beings, to you the completely and fully awakened one, the endowed transcendent destroyer, the glorious conqueror, the subduer from the Shakya clan, I prostrate, make offerings, and hope for refuge. When, O supreme amongst humans, you were born on this earth, you paced out 7 strides, then said, I am supreme in this world. To you who were wise then I prostrate. With pure bodies, forms supremely pure, wisdom ocean like a golden mountain, fame that blazes in the 3 worlds, winner of the best, Lord, to you I prostrate. With the supreme signs, face like spotless moon, color like gold, to you I prostrate. Dust free like you, the 3 worlds are not, incomparably wise one, to you I prostrate. The Saviour, having great compassion, the Founder, having all understanding, the field of merit with qualities like the vast ocean, to you, the one born to thusness, I prostrate. The purity that frees one from attachment, the virtue that frees one from the lower realms, the one path, the sublime pure reality, to the Dharma that pacifies, I prostrate. Those who are liberated and who also show the path to liberation, the holy field qualified with realizations, who are devoted to the moral precepts, to you, the sublime community intending virtue, I prostrate. Homage to the Supreme Buddha, homage to the Dharma refuge, homage to the great Sangha, to all 3 a devout homage. To all worthy of respect, bowing with bodies as many as all realms atoms in all aspects, with supreme faith I pay homage. Do not commit any non-virtuous actions, perform only perfect virtuous actions, subdue your mind thoroughly, This is the teaching of the Buddha. A star, a mirage, a flame of a lamp, an illusion, a drop of dew or a bubble, a dream, a flash of lightning, a cloud. Seek on vision things as such. Through these merits may sentient beings attain the rank of all seeing, subdue the four faults, and be delivered from samsara's ocean, perturbed by the waves of aging, sickness, and death. So welcome this evening. Thank you for giving up some time. It's wonderful. Before I begin, can I just check how many people were here for Geshe Sherab's wonderful teachings on the Foundation of All Good Qualities? Okay, so not everyone, that's fine. Excellent. So there might be some overlap, but overlap in the Dharma is kind of what it's all about. We have to overlap on a regular basis. I have been overlapping for 37 years, and sometimes it's just as new to me then. So this is one session in a series of sessions that I've been running on presenting the path to enlightenment, called the LAM RIM. And we started off by looking quite in depth of why the LAM RIM is possible. And we looked at it in relation to the Four Noble Truths, seeing that the LAM RIM is actually the path to the cessation of suffering, the path. We looked at precious human rebirth, and we saw that one of the reasons for looking into this aspect and understanding our preciousness of this life that we have now is understand the qualities and the freedoms that we have, and to overcome this poor me mentality, this kind of guilt mentality, this depression mentality that we sometimes get into, and realize that we have all the qualities and we have all the freedoms necessary to walk this path. And by meditating on the preciousness of human rebirth, it gives you energy, and it's the right type of energy, to walk this path. This type of energy is totally opposite to anything like guilt, anything like poor me and depression, or waiting for someone else to walk the path for me. So the Dharma is very clear about it. This journey that we make is a mental journey, and it's a journey from bondage to freedom. So part of the path is making sure that we understand what this bondage is, and we need to understand what the freedom is. Because if we don't understand these two ends of the spectrum, who's going to walk that path? We're just not going to do it. So that was part of the presentation. We then looked quite in depth of, okay, I have this energy, but how do I spend it? I mean, how do I spend this energy? Well, normally what we do, and it was the same in Buddha's time, is we get caught up in the 8 worldly dharmas, and we spent some time looking at that. And we asked ourselves some courageous questions. We said, is this true? I mean, really, believe nothing. Is it true? Do I spend my time wanting the pleasures of this life on whatever scale we think, the 5 senses, the pleasures? And do we spend a lot of our time trying to avoid any displeasure of the 5 senses? Do I spend a lot of my time trying to get stuff? And do I spend a lot of my time making sure that stuff's safe and I don't lose it? Do I spend a lot of my time wanting to hear sweet, pleasant words and sounds? And do I spend a lot of my time making sure I don't hear the opposite? Do I spend a lot of my time and effort and energy and motivation in wanting praise and acclaim from others? However slight, but you need to hear it. And do I spend a lot of my time making sure that I'm not blamed or criticized? And this is what the 8 worldly dharmas are showing us. This is how we tend to spend our time. But again, you don't believe any of this. You need to meditate on it. You need to see, is this true? And for most of us, we'll have 1 or 2 that are truer than the others. It's just the way we're made. Same in Buddha's time. So if we're saying to ourselves, I've got the energy, this is how I normally spend it, what should I be spending on? You know, what should I be doing? If I'm not doing this, what am I doing? And then we started looking at the idea of, well, it'd be really good to stop the negative stuff. And it'd be really good to promote the positive. And so we looked at karma, and we looked at the 10 non-virtuous actions. Do you remember them, 10 non-virtuous actions? So there was 3 of body. Do you remember the 3 of body? Killing, stealing, sexual misconduct. And you're thinking, okay, seems reasonable. Don't kill anything, seems good. Don't steal anything, great. Sexual misconduct, well, there's a lot of discussion about that, but generally speaking, okay. There was 4 of speech. Lying. Idle chatter. Divisive speech. Harsh words. Harsh words. How much time do I spend with that? So we want to avoid that. That's pretty good. Avoid that. And then there was the mind, the 3 of mind. Covetousness, not wanting something that isn't yours by right and depriving other people of it. Malice. You know, that little bit of malice. Saying things and thinking things kind of just to hurt people, because let's face it, some people deserve to be hurt. This is our idea. They deserve it. And wrong views. And then when we looked at these things, we thought, well, really, I learned that as a Christian. Really, no difference. And I have Jewish friends who say to me, it's not really much different. And most of the major religions have this, don't they? Of course they do, because they see that these things are just, and we know ourselves, these are pretty negative. So what's different in the Dharma? Why is it any different in the Dharma? Well, it's different in the Dharma in many ways. Because the Dharma is saying it's not enough just to avoid these things. It's not enough. We need to take certain steps in order to cultivate the opposite. So by just not doing something is not good enough to turn a positive into a negative. You need to understand why it's good not to do it. You need to know the results. If I do this, this is the result. Knowing that this is the result, I will actively avoid doing that. So you make that decision, and then you avoid. With these 3 steps, you can turn something into a positive action. Avoiding is not enough. In the Dharma, avoiding is not enough. One of the ways of understanding the ramifications of what we do, and this is what makes Dharma different than from, the 10 Commandments say, is because the Dharma is considered and considers more than one lifetime. Because the ramifications of what we do, we like to think, happens now. I get angry, I shout at somebody gets upset, get over it. This is what we think. Yes, suck it up. From a karmic point of view, this is not the end of anything. It is only the beginning. From creating wrong actions, seeds are planted on the mind. Not just this immediate result, but seeds go into the mind stream. And these seeds, once they meet the right conditions, causes and conditions, this karmic seed ripens, and you suffer again from this one act. And if you don't get your act together that time, it creates more negativity and more negativity. And more than that, when these seeds go onto the mind stream, they don't just hang about, they grow. So from the smallest negative action, you can result in something quite horrendous. The smallest positive action can result in something absolutely spectacularly beautiful. From the Buddhist point of view, from the Dharma point of view, these things are not metaphysical philosophies. To them, this is the law. It is a natural law. They see karma as a natural. In the same way as scientists see cause and effect as a natural law, Buddhists see karma as a natural law. This is what happens. This is what they say. So you can see now why it's important, not just to avoid an action, but know why you're avoiding it. Then taking this is what would happen if I did this. So I'm determined not to do that. Then you don't do it. You complete the action by not doing it. And that turns it into a positive. And once you understand, I mean, there's a lot more about karma. Everything we're talking about now takes weeks, really, to really look at it. But this is the taste of it in presenting the path. And once you get this idea of karma, you know, you start to think to yourself, well, but I thought karma was cause and effect. But once you study a bit more, you realize that karma is cause, not effect. And you have to come to grips with that, right? It's the cause. And more than that, study a bit more, you realize that karma is the intention behind the cause. More than that, karma is the urge to do something. Why is it important to know this? It's important to know this because we think that we do it like, I decide to do a good action, I do it, that's it. That's intention, right? I intend to do something. But actually, intention, that's gross intention, but there's much more subtle intentions. Intentions that go with each movement of the mind. So sometimes you end up doing things you didn't intend to do. You didn't intend to do something negative, but you did it. And we talked a lot about habit from previous lifetimes. Some people just have a habit of lying. If you say to them, do you know that you lie all the time? I mean, there's some people do. There's people who've got a habit of stealing. They don't go out to steal, they do. And we do this. So intention is a mental factor that accompanies every moment of mind. So when we talk about motivation, intention, the urge, it's not something that's right in the front of our mind all the time. It's something that goes much further back, much deeper. But how do you get to this much deeper? By dealing with what's right in the front. So start with this gross idea of avoiding things, of understanding, of not doing, making your intention. And the more you meditate, the more you understand, you'll catch that urge earlier and earlier and earlier. Does that make sense? I sometimes give I might have done this last week, but I taught in prisons for quite a while. And sometimes the prisoners will say things like, after doing a whole session on anger management, right? And then, you know, then you'll get one prison saying, yeah, but when they disrespect you, miss, you have to hit them. I just spent 3 hours on anger management. I'm going, yeah, don't really. You do this. You really, no, you don't yet. So it's going like this. So we worked on this for a bit. And this is actually an amalgamation of 2 or 3 people, not just one person. But what tends to happen now, I had somebody come up to me and say, you'd be really proud of me, miss. I said, well, good, why? So-and-so did that, and I didn't hit him. And I said, that's really well done. What did you do? Well, I just swore at him. And I gave him the evils, miss. I thought, yeah. Well, maybe next time, oh no, you have to do that, miss. You have to do that. I said, well, maybe next time you don't have to do that. And then a bit later, he was able to catch, what I'm trying to say, he was able to catch himself earlier and earlier and earlier until he didn't have, not only did he not physically do something, he didn't verbally either. His mind was still all over the place. But as the meditation grew, he caught it earlier and earlier and earlier. But from his point of view on the first session, it was inconceivable that you did not hit out in anger when someone disrespected you. Totally inconceivable. And they looked at me as if I'd just come from Mars. This was not possible. And sometimes we think like that when we understand, when we first start to think about karma, we think this is just, I can't do this. Yes, you can. Of course you can. Start now. And start with the gross stuff. Don't kill. Under any circumstance, don't do it. Don't take what's not yours. Don't do it. Work out what you think sexual misconduct is. Don't do it. People say, oh, I can't. You don't. One of the reasons you have a precious human rebirth, and one of the reasons you are human, is you don't have to work on instinct. You can make a decision. You can override instinct. Often a good idea. You don't have to do that. You don't have to hurt people with your speech. You really don't. And you don't have to be caught in a culturally ignorant way of thinking. You could change that. And that's what you do. You start now. And it's gross to start with, but it becomes finer and finer and finer. Once you get the hang of that, and you study and you meditate and all the rest of it, then you start getting a bit worried because you started off maybe not believing in previous lives, right? Let alone future ones. But when you study the mind for a bit, it's very hard to come to any other conclusion, I have to tell you. You start meditating, you start looking at mind itself, let alone anything else. It's very hard not to really believe that mind is kind of continuous. So you start getting worried about what you've done in the past. Yes. I'm okay now, but in the past I did this. In the Dharma, you purify. It is possible to purify negative karma on the mind stream. Okay? That's possible. So what's the way forward? If you've come this far along the path, what do you do? Well, what you do is you look behind you and you think of this lifetime and what you've done negatively, and you employ what's called the 4 opponent powers, and you purify. Then, if you're sensible, you'll start thinking about previous lifetimes. The Buddha said, if you want to know what you were like in previous lives, look at yourself now. Look at your body, look at your situation, and purify that. So you're looking behind you, purify that. Now you look ahead of you and don't commit any of the non-virtuous actions. What's the result? I become a nicey Buddhist. Well, no. What happens is your mind becomes calm. It becomes calmer. Non-virtue is like a storm in the mind. People say to me, I can't meditate, I can't do this. And it's hard. What can you say to people? You say, well, I understand. But have you thought of maybe not drinking so much? Have you thought of maybe not behaving in this particular way that I know they're behaving? Oh no, I can't do that. I said, so you're going to continue doing these things and you think you can meditate? Your mind, it's not like learning, it's not like going to university and learning another topic. By living ethically, which is what this is all about, you calm your mind. And if you've got a calm mind, you've got a chance of controlling it in meditation. That's why you're doing this. Questions? What do you think? I'm only recapping.
Just the last thing you said, controlling the mind.
Yes.
Do we guide the mind? Do we to control the mind? Is that what we can do?
Well, I like it. I like it. I like to think about control, because in order to free the mind, to be what it is, to go back to its own nature, you can't just let it wander about doing what it wants. Because if that worked, we would be perfect now. So controlling to me means look at what you're doing wrong and take charge. Stop it. Start employing the good qualities you already have. Now, interestingly, the more you control and the more you learn to calm the mind, then that control changes into a kind of directing the mind. After a while, you don't have to direct it anymore. It is as it is. Because the whole of the Dharma, it comes about by the premise that we already misknow so much. It's not like any other knowledge. I don't know this, so I'll just learn it. It's not like that. We misknow everything. We misknow reality. Now, in order to get past that misknowing, you have to let go. You have to identify it, bring it front and center, then stop it. Identify it, bring it front and center, and let it go. But mostly we don't even think there's a question there. And if you've ever tried to teach someone who already thinks they know the topic, very hard. To teach someone that knows nothing is very simple, very straightforward. But you see, we suffer because we misknow reality. So a lot of Dharma is about letting go of stuff, seeing things as being empty of how we think they exist. Seeing things that we normally see as permanent or unchanging, let that go, see the impermanent nature. So a lot of Dharma is often couched in terms of negativity. A lot of the terminology is negativity. But that doesn't mean it's bad. It means let go of the misknowledge that we have. So control, yeah. I do prefer that over this habit. But nothing's permanent like that. You let it go. Any Any other questions? Just generally about karma, because there's a lot about karma. We could spend a week on that, easy.
It's hard for me to believe that things grow even if you don't give them energy.
Yes, it is. It is hard. It is hard.
If you forget about it, you kill this guy. It's hard for me that
You never forget. The mind never forgets anything. It never
you
forgets
don't
anything.
give it energy. Not think about it.
Not now.
Mm-hmm.
You're not actively giving the energy. But I think the whole idea is that our concepts tend to be structured, concrete, and permanent. That's how we tend to see things. It's just the way we think. So when I say to you, there's a karmic seed planted on the mind, okay? It's an analogy that's useful to a point. We were talking about this today. After that, it's not so useful. For the moment, it's useful. But we tend to see this concrete seed sitting on a concrete mind, just hanging about. But karma's not like that. In fact, nothing's like that, really. It's active. It's alive. What do things do that are alive? They grow. They grow. So you just have to be in certain situations that are reasonable to this. It's like learning something. You know when you learn something, say just in the West, you learn something. If you are learning a different topic, but some of it is similar to that, yeah? Some aspects kind of remind you of this. Your understanding of this grows. You're not studying this. You're not actively activating this. You're doing this, but there's some aspects like this. Karma's a bit like this. Every movement of mind has a result. Every movement of mind has a result. And so these things are not concretely there. They're alive and they're growing. Now, what will grow this type of karma is something similar to the cause. So if you get really angry easily, there's some people who get angry very, very easily. Where does this come from? Every time they get angry easily, this grows it a bit more, It's not static. Karma is not static. Karma evolves. To be honest, everything evolves. But we don't think like that. It's one of the ignorances we have, is we think concretely and nothing is. But that's the concepts we use. But it's not the reality of it. How do you come to this conclusion? Well, you study, you reflect, you meditate, you start to taste it. You become your own convincer. Nobody else does it for you. So the next thing I was asked to do on this was to look at purification. Purification. How do we purify negative karma? So if you pick up, you've got something that says the 4 opponent powers, one of the handouts there.
So it's a new one that I'm actually sending, right?
Yeah, just the 4 opponent powers, yeah. Who taught the 4 opponent powers? The Buddha. From the Buddhist point of view, as this quote says at the end, the moon and the stars may fall to earth, the earth with all its mountains and dwelling places may disappear, and space itself may disappear. But it's impossible for a Buddha to tell a lie. For some people, that's enough. For others, not enough. So what is the Dharma saying? Especially within the Mahayana Dharma, it is saying that it is possible to purify any negative karma, however heinous, however horrible, it can be purified. But something that heavy on the mind, that negative, you have to employ powers that will activate and will be at least as powerful as the seeds that are on the mind. So these 4 opponent powers, each one of them, you need all 4 for purification to happen, and they need to be quite powerful. And when you go into karma, and when you go into how the mind works, each one of these 4 actually attack and counteract a different aspect of mind and a different aspect of karma. but we'll just look at this. Now, you can read about this anywhere. Sometimes the words are slightly different, but they mean the same thing. It's always called the 4 opponent powers. I always use the 4 R's because it's the only way I can remember them. Now, this first power, the power of regret. Now, what we're talking about here is, sitting down quietly, bringing to mind a negative thing you've done. Let's think about this lifetime, bringing it to mind. Understand its negativity. Understand the results that this is going to produce in future lives. It's very important we do that. And intensely regret. And here in the West, we fall into a big problem. Because our habit tends to be feeling of guilt. Guilt. And what I'd like you all to think about now is something that you've done. I know this will be hard for you, right? But something that you've done that's been very negative, right? We've all been there, right? Now, I want you to say to yourself mentally, I'm so guilty about this. I feel guilty about this. So bring that to your mind, right? Right now. And just continuously think, I feel guilty about this. How horrible, I should never have done it. Bring the guilt up. That's enough. We're used to doing this. So get a mental taste of that, how it makes you feel, what type of energy levels you've got. Now bring to mind again the same thing that you did wrong, the same negative action. Now repeat to yourself, I regret. I deeply regret that action. I regret it. I regret it. Say that over and over in your mind. Now taste how that feels and the type of energy. What's the difference between the first type of energy and the second type of energy? Is there a difference? What's the difference? Say again? Which one, the first one? So you do this, your action is this, and that's exactly right. Guilt turns you in on yourself. It just, and it's heavy, it's harsh. What else?
The other one was like as if you're being lifted.
Yeah. Could anybody feel that? Can you feel that kind of heaviness with the guilt? It's heavy. It's almost like you're being spiraled down into yourself. It feeds on itself. And whatever the situation is, you're the most important person in that. Even if you've committed an action against another individual, all your power, all your thought is about you. You're the center of the story. And it's heavy and it's negative and it just sucks the energy out of you. You see, the Tibetans, and Dharma in particular, but the Tibetan Buddhists, they don't understand this guilt. They don't even have a word for it. If you don't have a word for something, you don't have a concept. But how do you feel with the word, the same action, the same negative, but you think, I regret, I regret, I regret. What does that do for you? Opens you up.
It's affirmative.
It's affirmative. It feels a bit like, okay,
I can do this.
I can do something.
The contrast to the other was like, the first was like spikes, like
Yeah.
and then the other one was like
Yes.
soft and.
Yeah. Yes. Anything else? It's like that, isn't it? It's like, I can do something about this. It gives you that type of energy. And also, if the negativity has been against another individual, and it often is, then that individual becomes at least as important as you thinking about that individual. If you regret it, really what you're saying is, I regret hurting this person. This person gets a higher profile in this situation, and that's always good. That's always good. So when I talk about the power of regret, This is what I'm talking about. Now, I know when we think of things that we've done negatively, the tears may come. And we may get, because we're human, okay, so we get a bit upset. But that's not what you're going, I mean, that'll happen, fair enough, but don't let that be the overriding power. The overriding power of regret is understanding what you did, understanding it was negative, knowing the consequence and thinking, what was I thinking? Really, what was I thinking? That poor individual, look at the consequences. And when you start thinking like that, and you spend some time on regret, of all the four, this is probably the most powerful one. Get this right. Everybody always wants to know more about the remedy, but really the important thing is this one, the regret. Get the regret right, and the other three powers are a shoo-in. Let that energy come of regret. And if that regret is based on wisdom and compassion, even better. So you can regret because just humanly you think it was wrong, right? And you'll get some regret with that, of course. But if you understand wisdom, how things actually exist, if you understand compassion, then your regret will be more. It will become profound. So what I'm saying to you, the energy to change that will become stronger and more profound. Much better than just going, that was wrong, I shouldn't have done it. Fair enough. My bad. Not good enough. So the idea is not to make you feel guilty. The idea is to get this regret energy really up and bubbling so you're ready to do something. So what makes it, what brings this from a low simmer to a high bubble? Wisdom and compassion. Understanding. Get it strong. Then the second, so you've got this energy, right? And you're going to do something about it. So the next thing is the power of reliance, sometimes called the power of refuge. Right, sometimes called. And what this is saying is, from a Dharma point of view, I need an object now that's like a guide for me, my yardstick. I need to take refuge in that again. I need to reaffirm what I believe in. I need to bring to my, because sometimes when you're full of regret, you've got the energy, but it's not very directed. So bring to mind again what your refuge is. And refuge, Lama Yeshe used to say, we have no problem with refuge. We take refuge every day. We take refuge in our work. We take refuge in how we look. We take refuge in what we eat. We take refuge in the money. We take refuge in family and friends. Yes, we take refuge all the time. To do this from a Dharma point of view, then you take refuge in the three jewels. If you were teaching this to a Christian, because I mean, this could be taught to any religion at all. It will work because it's a law. It's not just a law for Buddhists. See? So their refuge would be Jesus, God, and the Holy Spirit, say. Right? But from a Buddhist point of view, it would be refuge in the Buddha, Dharma, and Sangha. Now that means that you have this refuge. So you would need to study and check, what does it mean to have refuge in the Buddha? Well, this prayer that we've been doing here, the first verse, the second verse, the third verse, and the fourth verse, this is all describing the qualities of the Buddha. Because if I'm going to take refuge in an individual, dead or alive, then it has to be worth it. I don't want to take refuge in someone who's a wee bit better than me. I want to take the ultimate refuge. The individual in this life or any life that taught a path so profound that would lead me from bondage to freedom. That's the individual I want. Personally, I don't take second best. Life is too short. So you would study this from a Buddhist point of view, and you'd study the qualities of a Buddha. This first 4 verses will give you some of the qualities. And then you think to yourself, this is someone that might be worth taking refuge in. Then you would take refuge in the second jewel, which is the Dharma. And this is the last verse on the second page. The purity that frees one from attachment, dharma. Purity, ethics. Ethics. Not being attached to 8 worldly dharmas, right? The virtue that frees one from the lower realms, pure ethics, pure morality. The one path, the sublime pure reality to the dharma that pacifies, I prostrate. To the dharma that pacifies my mind. So you study about the dharma, you study the qualities of the dharma. And if it's then reasonable, you think to yourself, I can take refuge in that. So that becomes your yardstick. You see where we are now? We've built up this energy with regret, but you need to bring to mind again that which is most important to you. The 3 jewels. Then you take refuge in the Sangha, which is the next verse. Those who are liberated. So they've already made it, right? This is the Arya Sangha. They've made it. Well, it's good to align yourself with people who have actually managed it, right? Those who are liberated and who also show the path to liberation, the holy feel qualified with realizations, who are devoted to the moral precepts, devoted to the moral precepts because they see their value. To you, the sublime community intending virtue and prostrate. So these are the 3 jewels. These are the 3 jewels of refuge. And the second power of reliance, sometimes called the second power of refuge, if you're a Buddhist, you bring these 3 powers strongly to mind. You just bathe yourself in it again. You remind yourself of these qualities. Then you have the power of the remedy. Now, Pema Chodron talks a lot in her bits about the different remedies. And so she'll say to people, if you've offended someone and that person's alive, go and apologize. Do something to counteract the negativity. So she'll talk about it on many different levels. Within the Dharma, there are many practices which are seen to be so powerful that they're sovereign remedies. Now, sometimes people go straight to the remedy and they forget the rest, and they think that's good enough. It doesn't work. You need the regret. You need the reliance. Then you employ a practice. Now, it makes sense if you're a Dharma practitioner and you have the regret because that's based on wisdom and compassion. You've taken refuge in the 3 jewels. So it makes sense that the remedy that you employ would be Dharma, some form of Dharma. And it is said that any act of compassion, any act of wisdom that's employed at that time in meditation is a sovereign remedy. So you may, for instance, do a meditation on compassion. You may do a meditation on emptiness. But all the time the regret is there, the refuge is there. Now you're employing the remedy. It could be any positive of that. It could be prostrations. Some of the most powerful remedies are within the tantric practices. Vajrasattva, for instance. Vajrasattva is an extremely powerful purification practice, extremely powerful. And Lama Yeshe, he used to get all his students, if you went to him and said, I've got a bit of time, Lama, what do you think I should do? 3 months Vajrasattva. And he'd send you up to the mountains, and that was you for 3 months, doing 3 months Vajrasattva practice. Lots of purification. So Vajrasattva, very powerful. In fact, Vajrasattva is so powerful that it's said that that can even purify some of the 5 heinous crimes. You know, the crimes that are so, spilling the blood of a Buddha, killing your mother, killing your father, type things. It's so powerful it can do that. There's a practice called Haruka Vajrasattva, which is a higher form of tantric practice. But you will always find within the FPMT there are adverts all over the place for people who want to do a 3-month retreat for nothing else except purification. Nothing else except that. But that's hard to start with. So we start from where we are. Depending on what your negativity was, perhaps you need to build up your compassion. So something on loving kindness, meditation on loving kindness, very, very good. And meditation on emptiness. If what you did was basically because you weren't wise enough, then a meditation on emptiness is very powerful. Almost any Dharma practice done with the motivation of purification will do the job. Now, it's all done in relation to the regret, the reliance, and the remedy. Okay, so already you've got all those going together. You can't just do the regret, then take it off. Step 2, no. That's feeding in to your refuge. And your regret and your refuge is feeding into your remedy. This is powerful stuff. When was the last time we really concentrated on something that we did negatively in this way? Mostly we just ignore it, or we try not to think about it, or we get so emotionally involved with it. We've got all this nonsense. When was the last time? The answer is never. Never. Well, think how powerful this is to bring it front and center and apply its powers. Now, the last one is the power of resolve, sometimes called the power of the promise. When you finish the remedy, then you make a resolve. Now, if you can resolve never to do that action again, fair enough. I mean, say you killed someone, right? Or you stole something a couple of times or once, then it may be reasonable to say, I will never do that again. And you just don't do it, right? But it may be things that it's not so easy to give up straight away. You're going to try your best, but so you can say, for the next 24 hours, I won't do that. The next week, you could say. If you can't manage a week, for the next 24 hours. If you can't manage that, for the next 12 hours. If you can't manage that, I will not do that again for at least an hour. Now, from a Western point of view, you're thinking, well, that's a bit of a cop-out. But not for the mind. It's all to do with making a promise and keeping it. The mind loves it. Make a promise and keep it. So if you feel you can't do it forever, then give yourself a time period and don't be Western about it. Well, I'll give it 6 months. Don't do anything that seems to be out of reach. Give it a short space of time and see how it goes. Now, what can happen when you do purification, especially if you do purification intensely? It's not unusual to actually get something negative to happen. So often during intense purification sessions, you can get a cold or a headache, or you can get restlessness, you can get sleeplessness. Something negative can happen. And how the Lamas explained it to me was this. Because we're not good at regret, we're not good at reliance, the remedy is kind of a bit lacking. What happens is some purification is going on, right? Definitely you're getting some purification, but not total. And what's happened is that that particular karma has been activated a bit, and so it ripens now. So where it could have ripened in lifetimes later, where you could have ended up having your head cut off by ISIS, right? You end up with a headache now. Another thing that tends to happen, I've noticed, is skin irritations. Different types of skin irritations. So I'm not saying this will happen. I'm saying it kind of sometimes does. So here we get into a habit. And the habit is now, whatever happens to us negatively, whether we're doing purification or not, see it as purification and then let it go. It's a good habit to get into. Anything that negatively happens to you, how wonderful. What a great idea. Thank you so much. And let it go. What not to do is, oh no, why did that happen to me? I never did this. This is the second time it's happened to me. So what you're doing there is you're investing in it, time, energy, and karma. And you're creating more karma in relation to this. If you want that karma to end now, touch it lightly. You've experienced it. Thank you, that's brilliant. I've experienced it now. I've purified that particular thing and move on. It's a good habit to get into. Because if you don't, you work the other way and the karma continues. So these four things: regret, reliance, remedy, and resolve. Very important. Very important. Any general questions about that?
So, okay, oh, sorry. So once we burn out a negative karma from the karma bank, that particular karma has been wiped out.
Yes.
Okay.
Depending on the degree. See, it says here the degree of purification depends on the strength of the powers. When we first start, you know, we give it a go, don't we? Maybe not so strong, but with practice, this is why 3 months is important. You get it by the end of 3 months, you really get it. Nobody does regret as much as somebody who's just finished a 3-month Vajrasattva retreat. They can do regret, no problem. They can do refuge, they can do the remedy, and their resolve is unequaled. Because you've been doing nothing else. Great.
No, I thought maybe you could tell a little about what Vajrasattva practice is.
Okay, so
just a little, so people get it.
it's Vajrasattva is a particular deity. It's a particular deity with a mantra that's so powerful. And Vajrasattva promised that doing this particular mantra in these particular conditions would purify any negative karma. This is a vow you made. All bodhisattvas in the past, at one stage, make a vow, different vows to help sentient beings. And this is one of the vows of Vajrasattva. So powerful. Really. If you ever get the chance, well, I won't say that, but keep an eye open for Vajrasattva initiation. You can do the Vajrasattva mantra without a transmitter. But if you've got a good lama around, you can ask for a transmission of the mantra. Just a transmission of the mantra. There's no commitment involved. And you do that and that just makes that mantra a bit more powerful. Then if it becomes useful to you, you might want to take an initiation in that particular deity. If you do, there'll be commitments with that. There'll be commitments. Often you have to do the mantra every day. It's a good idea to do it anyway. Most of the people I know that practice Dharma, they do Vajrasattva every night. Every night. Hedging your bets in case you don't wake up in the morning. So what I'd like you to do now, to make sure you get this idea, is in groups of no more than 4. I want you to look at these, you've got them in front of you, those 4 powers. And in your group, I want you to discuss which one you think would be the easiest for you to do. And which one would be the most difficult. And why. Okay? You're looking at the 4 reported powers. We've talked about how it works. And we're not talking about anything fancy. We're talking, let's say, in the evening, sitting quiet and just bringing it to mind. Bringing it to mind. Letting that regret build up that energy. Taking strong refuge. Applying the remedy. And then making a resolve. What I'm asking you to do is look at these 4 again in your discussion groups. And each one of you say, which one do you think would be the easiest for me? Because some of you will find some things easier than others. That's just life. And which ones that perhaps might be a bit more difficult and why? Okay, 10, 15 minutes, that's all.
Jeg tror, vi har
Den hun siger, kom helt frem. Kan I se på det her? Det er sikkert den situation, som opstår. Altså to positive elementer. Vi har noget her. Det tænker vi kan gøre noget ved det. Er det jeg ikke tror på det? Det er noget her. Begge to kigger på det. Okay. Ja. Altså, jeg kommer fra det her. Jeg læner tilbage på nogle større. Så jeg har en rigtig relation med jer. Og så kommer jeg ned og siger, jeg vil nok være de er med, jeg har spurgt deres hjælp om en intention af at skabe noget. Men en intention om ikke en intention, hvordan er det skade. Jeg ved godt. Måske ikke. Nej, jeg var ikke. Nej, jeg har jo ikke. Det er jo bare lidt. Så hvis jeg sender den tilbage. Og så den der vælge, den kan være, hvad har vi nemlig? Jeg har nu vil jeg være sådan færdig at sige fremover, at jeg er i forhold til så kan det jo også være og selvfølgelig ikke sikkert lige forstået situationen, så kan det være, at jeg skal have en køn på det. Og hvor man resten af det kan være, at jeg kan optage det, så det er og så får jeg afgøret det.
Hvis jeg ikke gør det,
Ja, eller man fokuserer på fejl, som vi også har snakket om, i stedet for at fokusere på og hvor sygt det er at fokusere på det. Altså, i stedet for at tænke, ej, hvad det kan være.
Der er nogen, der vælger, at de skal have lidt courage.
Ja, så det må være. Man ved ikke, om det er viden ja, det var ret stærkt. Ja, fordi man føler sig lidt som en slave. Det føler jeg. Det der med, at der ligger noget kulturelt, så det er svært at se det. Så nu er jeg simpelthen ja, det gør jeg lidt jo. Så det behøver ikke diskutere. Jeg også sige, det er bare, man har lyst til.
Man kan måske også der var en dårlig følelse. Jeg ved ikke, om det var rigtigt.
Som at tage den er også den er større end den spiser, så man skal jo ikke kun sige sådan og det der med, om man bare jeg tænkte faktisk på det sidste, det er meget sjovt, fordi der var de her teaching prayers, og så ville jeg gerne have det med hjem, det var ret stærkt, og så tænkte jeg, at jeg tager den hjem, altså bare det der, om man spørger, eller man bare får det, det er jo små ting, men det er jo stadigvæk det der med, at man bare er lidt træt, om det er okay. Så det er jo mindre, jeg tænker, det er meget mindre action, som man tænker, fordi jeg vil aldrig få selv sige, at på en sted. Jeg vil godt få sat papir, så jeg tjekker på. Ja, hvis det ikke er det, så er det ikke lagt så langt. Det er lukket frem, så tænker jeg.
der er en chance.
Men stadigvæk super
Så det er bare hårdt, hvis man er sådan en, der tager den hårde vej, og modstander frygter også begynder at se på ting, som man ikke er taget til.
Men det er faktisk ikke det, vi faktisk laver ikke meget svært på at realisere, at man er nødt til at komme tilbage indtil at se en situation for, hvad den er. Ikke bare fordi jeg koblet på alle så folk, der ser det som noget andet. Empty off, men empty off. Empty er ikke empty of illusion, empty of fantasy, empty of inherent existence. Altså, det jeg tænker på, jeg har sådan og fordi min tanke er, at relationen til det er flydende, så er det ikke konkret.
Og det der med, at man selv
Præcis, der er nogle stærke.
Det der med at gå.
Så kan man gå ind og sige,
Ja, det der med, hvor det er sådan.
så får man med vaccinationen af forløbet.
så også det der med selv
Ja.
så altid huske, at alle koncepter, man har, det er koncepter, sagde jeg, der var. At hvis man et koncept er trådt sig selv,
det er et værktøj, men man har fået noget endnu større, endnu stærkere for at smadre det. Så konceptet virker indtil et vist niveau. Præcis, men nu, når vi nu er her, så bruger vi her familier og værktøj. Og så, men så det nemmeste er måske det man kan mærke.
Jeg vil også sige,
Det er noget med det her. Den måde, jeg har vokset op i.
That was quick. Right. Oh. So do you feel you could employ these 4 opponent parts? Could you sit quietly, bring to mind negativities, develop strong regret, develop a reliance, employ a method, and make a resolve? I'm not talking about anything terribly official here. I'm talking about your mind. So of those 4 opponent powers, which ones did you find that might be a bit more reasonable for you to do now? You know, which ones do you think are more straightforward for you now?
Regret,
Yeah.
tackle first.
Right.
Tinges of we had to do with guilt. That's another ball game. That's
Completely.
another
That's
day,
why
another job.
keep doing that exercise I gave you before, so that you can taste the difference. You need to be able to recognize the infiltration of guilt. If guilt starts to infiltrate, recognize it and kick it out. Doesn't make you a horrible person, it makes you a wise person. So do you think developing regret would be the easiest one for you? No. Anybody find regret would be the easiest? There's no right answer or wrong answer, just, yeah? You're halfway there, right? We're halfway there. Okay, good, good. Whatever you manage, make it as strong as you can, then move on. If you get it strong and you think, well, it could be stronger than this, but it's not getting any stronger, that's okay. Move on to the next step, right? Don't set yourself a benchmark. I had a friend who set herself a benchmark. She had to cry solidly for 5 minutes, then she had to eat correct. Didn't get this at all. I mean, you may find yourself crying, it's not a problem, as long as it's not the predominant feeling here. Anybody find anything, any of the other 4 powers seems a bit more reasonable, a bit easier to do? Maybe it rings a bell with you.
The remedy.
The remedy,
Yeah.
yes.
Because then I think I'm doing something.
That's right.
Yeah.
Yeah, it certainly appeals to us, doesn't it? And often, the remedy for people who've been doing this a long time, sometimes the remedy becomes the most important part. And what happens is people rush through the other bits and then focus on the remedy. And I know, I mean, I'm talking from experience and from people that I know. Don't let that happen to you. Never see it as more important. It's important, of course it is. I mean, some of these tantric practices you'll learn are very involved, very powerful, and you'll feel the results, absolutely. So then we tend to think, well, this is really important, this is really important. The power of regret, nothing's more important. That stops habit. You know the habit that we keep talking about, habitually doing things in this lifetime, habitually going from lifetime to lifetime. The one thing that will stop that is developing strong regret. So don't miss that. Don't miss it. And don't miss the reliance. Bring refuge really strong to mind. And if you've looked at the qualities of the Buddha, the Dharma, and Sangha, out of those 3, the Buddha, the Dharma, and the Sangha, if you were to choose one that is the most powerful and the most important, which one would it be? Just think about it for a moment. And we can think, well, they're all 3 equally, of course. But out of the 3, if you had to choose one, which one do you think is most important? Yeah, absolutely. Dharma is far more powerful. It is the most powerful aspect. And if you have one, if you have the Buddha, then you have the Dharma and the Sangha. If you've got the Dharma, you've got the Buddha and the Sangha. But the thing about Dharma, the teachings themselves, is you can rely on the Dharma. The Dharma is there. The Buddha is dead. Does he exist? Oh yes. And if you call upon the help of the Buddhas and the Bodhisattvas, they've got nothing else to do but to help you. They don't go on holiday. Really. They can't do it for us. If they could, we'd all be in the mountain. But they're only hanging about. The power of their bodhicitta is so strong, they can't rest. Not only does the power of bodhicitta, which we'll be going into on Saturday, not only does it take you to enlightenment, but it sustains you while you're enlightened. It sustains you, it keeps you going to do what? To help sentient beings. But to help, they can't do it for us. So what they need is for us to invoke them. We need to ask. It's almost like having an invisible connection, asking, invoking. It's like you open up a pathway for them to help you. But with the Dharma, it's got everything. The Dharma has everything. The Buddha himself said, rely on my teachings. Rely on the teachings. The 3 jewels, definitely. But of the 3, Dharma. Because the thing about refuge is we tend to see refuge as taking reliance in external objects, the external Buddha, the external Dharma, the external Sangha. This is what we see. This is our concepts, our ideas. But the Dharma is saying this. Okay, in the beginning, certainly show homage to the Buddha, the homage to the texts, homage to people who are wearing robes. But remember, you take refuge in Arya Sangha, those beings who see the nature of reality, who understand emptiness. That's the Arya Sangha. That's the Sangha you take refuge in. You show respect for other Sangha members, obviously. But you see, the uniqueness of the Buddha and the Buddha's Dharma is that when you take refuge in the external Buddha, you do it to the degree that it shines a light on the Buddha that you will become. It opens a pathway by seeing the external Buddha, by focusing. It's only as good as what it shines a light on the Buddha that you will become. The external Dharma shines a light on the achievements and the realizations that you will get. The Arya Sangha who have achieved emptiness, external, shines a light on your understanding of wisdom and compassion. That's its function. If it were always external to you, there's no point. So they talk about Dharma refuge being external and internal. They talk about causal and resultant refuge. So the causal refuge could be the external, but the result is your internal refuge. And you can only develop that internal refuge because you have Buddha nature. So it's not something you have to get, it's just something you have to develop. So when I'm talking about taking refuge, when we say homage to the Buddha, homage to the Dharma, homage to the great Sangha, to all three of a devout homage, you're not worshipping. You're recognizing the love, the wisdom and compassion, and you're saying, once you were just like me, may I become like you. Then it becomes very important, very important. Then it becomes easy to treat Dharma materials with a kind of respect. And then it becomes easy to treat people who are working and colleagues on the path, monks and nuns and the geshes who come here. It becomes easier to treat them with respect because that's what they're doing. They're trying their best this way. The causal and resultant refuge. Going for external refuge, shining a light. Every time you do it, shining a light. It's agitating this Buddha nature, helping you to become Buddha, helping you to come Dharma realizations, helping you to become your own Sangha. Anything less than that, it's not worth your attention. I don't think. Not worth my attention. So just something to think about. Which bits would you find more difficult to do you think?
I think the remedy, I questioned if, for example, it was something I had done towards somebody, if it would be the right remedy to go to that person and bring it up again, or would that be imposing pain, suffering on this other person?
You have to make a decision. You can't hold on to the results of anything like this. You see, we think we've got control over these things, don't we? And so we think, and we think of all the different scenarios. Often we think of the reasons why not to do this. That's really wrong. But you don't know. Unless you have clairvoyance, you don't know what the result will be. So you make an informed choice. Do I go to this person and say, I really am sorry, I totally regret what I did. Is there anything I can do for you now that could in any way repair the damage that I caused? How they react is up to them. You see, we think we've got control on how they react. Yeah, we don't control it all. We can hardly control ourselves.
Yes, I suppose it's the fear of what the reaction
Yes.
will be.
Yeah, and we overthink it. We think we've got control, we have no control. But you may come to a decision, knowing this individual, and you think, that wouldn't be the wisest thing to do. Then don't do it. Employ a remedy. And if you don't know which remedy to use, compassion. When do you use compassion? At the right time. When is the right time? Every time. When do you use wisdom? At the right time. When is the right time for wisdom? Always the right time for wisdom. You can't go wrong. If you're not sure what to do make a meditation on wisdom, or make a meditation of compassion. It's never the wrong time. Later, you learn other techniques, you try them out. There's one called prostrations to the 35 Buddhas. And your quid's in here because you're doing prostrations while reciting the names of the 35 Buddhas. So you get fit as well as purified. Very good. Yes. And the Vajrasattva you can do sitting like a Buddha on a seat, or you can do that with prostrations. There's lots of different ways. But it's always a time for compassion. Always a time for wisdom. Never a time like this. So when in doubt, what do we do?
Compassion.
Thank you. Thank you. Excellent. So anybody find the resolve might be more difficult?
Yeah, that's what I wanted to say. Because
What's
I'm
your
afraid,
idea?
yeah, I'm just afraid of disappointment.
Uh-huh. Afraid of getting it wrong
Yeah.
or not doing it.
Yeah, like you said, the Western way of thinking, oh, I have to stop what I feel. And then maybe.
And it isn't good enough saying 5 minutes or 20 minutes or an hour. That's kind of like a cop out. Got to stop thinking like that.
Trust, I need to trust that I can.
Yes. So you make it reasonable. You make it reasonable. If it's something you can give up straight away, let's say that you killed someone or an animal. Let's say you did that. It's possible. I think it's reasonable to say, I'm not going to do that again. I know the consequences. In this lifetime and the next time, I'm not doing that again. That's kind of reasonable. And I think you can kind of keep that. But if it's something else like getting angry or divisive speech or something like that, you think, well, then start off saying something like, for the rest of the day, I will not do that. And you keep your mind on that for the rest of the day. If you're sensible, you'll stay at home. Unplug the phone. This is why doing these type of situations when you're in retreat is much easier. In retreat, much easier. Or if you're employing, if you're doing the 8 Mahayana precepts, that's much easier. Because let me tell you, the one thing that will stop you doing anything wrong, not speaking. So if you can be in a situation where you can keep silent for a while, that's very good. It's amazing how much negativity with speech. And so in retreat, much easier. So feel free to say things like, even for the next hour, but make sure you're aware for that hour. Now let's say 59 minutes have gone. And in the last minute, you do it again, whatever it was. Right? Did you mean to do it again? It happened, you didn't want it to happen, and then what do? The 4 opponent powers, immediately you regret it. There's also mantras you can do straight away to kind of halt it. Because remember we said karma kind of increases. So if you've done something negative, one mantra, Om Vajrasattva Hom, which is a short version of the 100-syllable mantra, can actually halt the growth of that. So sometimes I'm out and about and I've done something or said, which is quite often, I have to tell you, things are not quite going right. And I've done something not right. So I quickly do 21. I tend to do 21. We're very keen on numbers in Tibetan Buddhism, 3, 7, 21. 21, Om Vajrasattva Hom. And I'm focusing on that at the moment, just Om Vajrasattva Hom. And I do it just to halt so it doesn't anymore. And when I got time, I do the full 4 of 1 pounds when I get home. That's just what I do. There is a story I was told in Tibet when they used to give these to butchers. Used to give teach butchers about purification, and but the butchers killed all the animals, of course, and they still wanted to do purification. So the Lama said, right, okay, well you can do the 4 important powers because they're very powerful, and the resolve is you will not kill during night. That was something they could keep. Now, for a Western mind, bit of a cop-out, but no, it was a promise. And it was a promise that was kept. Prostitutes used to say, I want to do the 4 important powers, but I've got to earn a living. And the lamas would say, you can do the 4 important powers, just promise not to do that during the day or for an hour. There's nobody that can do this. Everybody can do it. And it's not a cop-out to make it short. But those things that you can give up straight away, fine. I will never do that again. And I tell you something, when you do that, it's like, you get more energy straight away. That's one thing else I don't have to think about. And will I make a mistake? It will happen. The Western idea, oh my God, I've done the guilt, I've broken my word. What you do when you find breaking a vow to yourself is it's negative. Of course it is. What do we do? You plan again. It's not a cop-out, it's a remedy. Get into the habit and you'll see it's much easier, much easier.
Then there's also the recognition. I did 59 minutes. It was only the last minute that I fell over.
Yeah, that's quite good.
So acknowledging those 59 minutes.
More than acknowledging, rejoicing. We're not good at that, eh? No. You see, I don't know about Denmark, but certainly where I come from, if somebody says you did something well, you go, oh no, it was no, I could have done that better. It's almost as if you rejoice in something, you're blowing your own trumpet. Do you have that in Denmark? Blowing your own trumpet. And so we're not in the habit of rejoicing over ourselves, the positive things we do, and we're not in the habit of rejoicing positive things that others do. Yes. I try not to say that, but you're right. But it's also a Western thing, though. It's also a Western thing. We have to, and not all West either. The Americans are very good at this. I mean, they really tell you when they're doing well. And you can just see all the Europeans' backs going up, like this. But rejoicing here is really taking joy in what you've done well. There is a text which says, and I can never get the percentage right, but let's say there's someone of equal standing in the Dharma to you, kind of got the same type of understanding. If you rejoice in what they've done positively, you really rejoice, and that feeling of rejoicing is interesting. It's not, oh, I'm really pleased. Not like that. It comes from the heart. You really are happy. You're just really rejoicing. You actually, without doing anything else, just rejoicing, you get a percentage of that. Now, you're not taking it away from that individual, so they're getting less. No. It just means that because you're rejoicing in that individual, you get a percentage and you've done no work for it. See, when I heard this, I was so happy. Here's the way I thought that I could manage. If you take joy in someone whose understanding the Dharma is more important, has more understanding and realization, and you rejoice in them, then you get a significant amount of percent. Again, you're not taking it for that individual, but the mind of rejoicing is so rare. It is just so rare, this rejoicing from the heart in what other people do and what you do, that the value to your mind is huge. And so getting into the habit of rejoicing on what you do well. And it's more than just patting yourself on the back. It almost takes over your mind. It's like there's no room for anything else. It's not like, oh, I'm really happy about that. It's much more than that. It's that wave that sometimes of pleasure that can come over you, like that. But it's directed to the good qualities that you've done, to the good things that other people have done, and it's genuine. And there's no codicil. And by codicil, I mean, often when we say, that person, what a wonderful thing they did. Do you see what they did? How wonderful. And you wait. And the next thing that tends to come to the mind or out of the mouth is, mind you, they earn enough for that. How wonderful this person was. Yes. of course, if I had the backing that they had, I could probably, there's always something, Rejoicing doesn't have any of that. It's completely clean, clear. No cortisols. In and of itself, rejoice. Energy. And rare. Anything else that came up from these 4 opponent powers?
Finding the right remedy.
Finding the right remedy, like I say, we have to study. There are different ones. There are some that are considered more powerful than others. Until you learn them, what do you do? Yes. And if you're not sure how to meditate, then we've got a problem here. So you've got books there on the LAM RIM outlines. Follow them step by step. It tells you very clearly, meditate like this. And it's got lovely ones on compassion, lovely ones on emptiness. And if that's not to your taste, then there's other meditation books. And look at Kathleen McDonald's book, Sankhya Kadru's book. It's got some beautiful meditation, short, sharp, and to the point. Honestly, it's perfect. How to meditate, that book. It's got it all in there. Just sit down with that book and step by step go through it. And feel it. Feel it.
We had a point about the remedy that this is a remedy, it'll make me feel good. So it's not really genuine.
Well,
There's still a...
the only person, see, you're right. I mean, I know exactly what you're saying. But we have to get over this. To be honest, we have to get over ourselves. Who else do we have a running chance of feeling good about? Do you really have a running chance of making others feel good? Not really. But you've got a real running chance of making yourself feel good. There is nothing wrong with that. Get rid of this Judeo-Christian idea that really it's good to be kind to everybody else, but not to myself. It's good to make other people happy, but really it's better if I'm just a little bit miserable. No. If you want to be authentically happy and you want to make others happy, you have to be authentically happy yourself. Really. If you want to be kind to other people, you must be kind to yourself. If you don't, it's just not genuine. It's not coming from the wellspring of love and compassion. Because the thing about love and compassion is the more you give, the more you get. You never run out. It's an artesian well. You never run out. It's not possible to run out of love and compassion if you have genuine compassion and love for yourself. However, if you don't, if you're of the mindset that says, well, really, I'm not worthy. I'm not worthy. I am not worthy. But everybody else, okay? When you give on those, you will run out. And you will become unhappy because it's not coming from this wellspring. So there's nothing wrong with being kind to yourself. So let's do a short meditation just to seal it all in. So relaxing the body. And use a meditation that you're comfortable with to relax the body and mind. And I often recommend people do the 2-breath method. Keeping the tummy soft, breathing through the nostrils, allowing your belly to fill, and then breathing out a long out breath like this. And on that long out breath, letting your whole body and mind relax. And you do that type of breath twice and then breathe normally. So in your own time. And we come to this meditation from this angle. Deeply and sincerely say to yourself, it is possible for me to purify all my negative karma. It is possible. I can apply the four opponent powers with enthusiasm and wisdom. I can develop deep and profound regret. And this will take the place of any guilt. My refuge will become deeper and more profound with my study and wisdom of the three jewels of refuge. I will learn to apply appropriate remedies. And I will make my resolves meaningful and achievable. If I do this regularly, make it my habit, then lifetime after lifetime, there is no basis for me to be born in a bad rebirth. There's no basis for it. By abandoning the 10 non-virtuous dharmas, I will continue to take precious human rebirth, walk the path, meet the Dharma, and become liberated and enlightened. Review these points in your mind and build up a very strong determination. I will purify my negative karma. I will apply the four opponent powers. And I will live in virtue. Really, what's the choice? This I will do. Build up this determination. And when the determination is as strong as you can make it, simply be with the determination. Just focus on that. Keep the determination strong. Then focus. So this employing of analytical meditation and single pointed concentration, very useful in meditation. In the beginning, if you're new to meditation, then analytical meditation becomes more important. But it's good to balance both. So when you're applying a remedy, say you're doing a meditation on compassion, okay? And if you're following the guidelines laid out, you will use an analytical concept. An analysis takes your mind from one point, which is usually a misunderstanding of something, and it moves the mind to a deeper, correct understanding. Analysis does that. But when you've come to the decision, or when the determination is strong, or when you get it, you think this is it, then leave the analysis alone. Just stop the mental chatter, let it go, and then focus. Hold it with your mind. Not like this. Just gently hold it. And when it wanders off, gently bring it back. And it'll wander off, you bring it back. And one time you'll bring it back, and there'll be nothing there. You're sort of like, oh, what happened? There's no determination. There's no good feeling about compassion. At that point, employ the analysis again. Remember the main points of the meditation again, and bring it up again. And when it's as strong as you can make it again, let go of the analysis and focus. And that's the way to use analytical meditation and single pointed concentration. Analysis moves the mind. The ability to focus changes it. Employ both together. Perfect. In the beginning, though, analysis will be more important because anybody can focus, but you want to be sure you're in the right place to change your mind. Rinpoche said you can employ single pointed concentration, shamatha meditation, for instance, while you're stabbing someone. You can be very concentrated. You can hold the object without losing it, no problem. But you're not in the right place, you know what I mean? So analysis is very important, moving the mind to the right place. Anything we think, say, or do, anything, leaves karmic seeds on the mind. If we leave anything on the mind, if we've done something very positive like we've been doing now, it's really important that we get the result of this. And they say that negativities tend to go deeper into the mind stream quickly, simply because of habit, whereas positive things are tend to be a wee bit shallow to start with. And so dedication prayers are really about almost like pushing the seed deeper into the ground so that it stays and it will develop and you will benefit positively from it. So we use prayers for this, but you don't have to. If you're out and about and you're doing something positive, just take a moment to sit and say, may this benefit myself in this way. May this benefit others in this way. Dedicate it. Dedication is a bit like remembering what your intention was. But now you've got the energy to do something with it because you created good karma. But because this is Tibetan Buddhism, we'll do the first 4 prayers because we're terribly keen on prayers. And very useful. Prayers are very useful. These are study guides in themselves. So we do the first 4 verses. You see, look what this is saying. We'll do the first verse. Due to the merits of these virtuous actions, may I quickly attain the state of a Guru Buddha and lead all living beings without exception into that enlightened state. So there's nothing higher than this. There's nothing higher than this. If you want a dedication that's like, that's it. And if you're walking the Mahayana path, then you have a bodhicitta dedication, a bodhicitta motivation, a bodhicitta dedication. Now, are we bodhisattvas? No, well, I'm not about you, you're probably not. So we start, it's only a facsimile, it's only pretending. But we're pretending what we want to become. We're laying the seeds now. So in Mahayana, you start straight away with the bodhicitta. There's nothing higher. But let's say you've got a friend who's ill, and you want to dedicate the good things that you've done to a friend who's ill or a friend who's dying. You can adjust that. May this energy benefit my friend who is dying at the moment. May she find release. May she find their precious human rebirth. Nothing wrong with that. This is the highest. May the supreme jewel bodhicitta that has not arisen arise and grow. And may that which has arisen not diminish, but increase more and more. Now what this is saying is, there's nothing rarer than bodhicitta. This is the energy that takes you to enlightenment, bodhicitta. May that which has arisen arise and grow, okay? But it also says, may that which has arisen not diminish. Now what's that telling you? It's telling you that people can lose their bodhicitta. Until it reaches a certain level on the path, it's a bit fragile. It's a bit fragile. So you need to keep nurturing all the time. Just as the brave Manjushri and Samantabhadra too realize things as they are. Now here we go. Realize things as they are. Wisdom. This is what it is. I too dedicate all these merits in the best way that I may follow their perfect example. This is the way you take refuge in the Sangha, in the Arya Sangha. I dedicate all these roots of virtue with a dedication praised as the best by the victorious ones thus gone of the 3 times, so that I might perform good works. So it's got a lineage. This is what the victorious ones have said. Who are the victorious ones? Yeah. And we have that potential. We can do it. I want to thank you for putting up with this and for studying and participating. It's a real joy. And I know Maria wants to say a few things, so if you could give her your attention.
Maybe it's not appropriate, but I think last week you spoke about death. And, yeah, and I really felt a lot of interest for that. So I thought I would just say that we have a project here called Pure Land of Medicine Buddha, where we have volunteers who go to the sick and to the dying. So if some of you, I know you are thinking about it, maybe others are interested, you can contact me. I'm also follow your teaching. So, and I took a paper. I think there is a paper here. So we have calls, a training course next year, and Martina will be the dates and stuff. But just let it, if you feel for it, because
to be able to benefit those who are dying.
yeah,
it's absolutely wonderful.
It's wonderful, and we are old. All the ones that we are quite old, so we need some younger ones. Yeah. With more energy. Otherwise, it's getting a nursing home before we know about it ourselves.
We're just a bunch of old crocs, Maria.
That's where we are.
But if you could think about that, that would be just a wonderful thing to do. Just a wonderful thing to do. And especially if you get training, because we all need training. We need to think about this. Because I did the course at the Royal Marsden Hospital in London, Care for the Dying, and that was very interesting. I dealt a lot with medical and psychological issues, but the courses I did with the Dharma that really enhanced the whole thing. How wonderful to be able to do that skillfully. I just hope I have the karma that someone can do help me when I'm going out. Good. Good. I don't know. But thank you so much and safe journey home. I just can't believe 2 hours goes this quickly. It just goes like that.
You put a lot in there.
I do.
Yeah. Lots of info.
I don't like to waste your time. I was doing one retreat on emptiness, and these guys came up to me on the Sunday and said, "Please, Mary, no more information, please." So
There's a lot in there.
So I said, okay. So we just reviewed what we had done on the Saturday, and you could just see people going, I said, "Please, no more." That's okay. But these things, you're not meant to remember it straight away. People never do. You have to hear this time and time again, and from different teachers, putting it in different ways. You know, reading it. These things never stick. The first, I don't know about you, but the first half dozen times never stick with me. You need to hear it time and time again. And the value of hearing it from different teachers, especially teachers like Geshe Sherab, you know, LAM RIM. These great teachers, and Sven's coming here, isn't he? I mean, you know, and you've had Alan Wallace, and these people will put it all in slightly different way, but pure Dharma, pure Dharma. So that's time and time again. Never don't go to anything because, oh no, I've done that. No. No. Unless you've got a total realization in that, just assume you haven't. Right, that's a good one. So I'll see you tomorrow about 11 o'clock.
Yeah. Is it probably right for you to show it back today?
Of course, that's fine. Yes, please don't worry.
And it's very people that love it.
Oh, it's been fantastic. I'm just not used to apartment living, so the noises are a bit interesting.
Yeah.
But that's apartment living. And a couple of times I was a knock at the door. I was in bed, and I've gone to the door, but it's been nobody there. But I don't know if it's me mishearing noises. So maybe some